Hello, welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm Robyn.
And I am Gil, and we are so glad to welcome you today to Rockin the Love.
That's what we're here to do. And we're welcoming Wayne right there, our very own rock star. Good to see you, Wayne. And all of you out there, we see your numbers, even though we don't know who you are lurking behind that number. So say hello in the chat and let us know who you are and where you're calling from and all that good stuff. Like us, and you know what to do. You've been here enough times to know what to do. So today we are so excited to have a guest on our show. And
we might tell you who it is, but right now we just want to remind you that this is May, and it's our theme of the month is May Be. And so we've been talking about being the last few weeks, and we're going to continue that today. We're excited about that. This week's theme is Be Yourself. It's not too late. Woo, that's good to know.
It is good to know. So for those of you who are joining us that might not have been here over the last couple of weeks, we've just been talking about being and what that means. How do we be in our life as opposed to, always doing and trying? And what does it really mean to be courageous, be fearless, be this, be that? And how do you incorporate that into who you are? So today we're going to go a little deeper. But before we do that, let's just check in on our week and what you took away last week and what came up for you. And all of you, please let us know in the chat. We'd love to hear if anything came up from our discussion. Hit it.
Well, last week we were talking about being powerful, being in our power, right? And what I was thinking about was that for me over this last week, I felt like I've had so much to do. And in that, I've gotten a little bit lost in the doing and the I don't know, the struggle to stay focused, to stay in it, to keep going. And it's been hard to get back to the being.
And I'd like to ask our viewers, how do you feel like that? Because what I find is that a lot of people are feeling like that. And, there's actually some data somewhere about times speeding up, but it really feels like every minute is full. Like I have to schedule my minutes to not be doing something. And usually they still get usurped by something that needs to happen. So, I mean, are you feeling like that out there? So say more about your week, about just the being part.
Just that the anchoring into just being me didn't feel like enough. It felt like there was so much I needed to do and organize that I couldn't just be who I am. And when I found the time when I could go, look, this is what I need to do for me. I need to be doing something else. I need to take a minute. Then I was able to actually focus and center and come back to being. But when I stay out there in that, I get lost. I get crazy, and it gets hard. And I get, do I get snippy?
That's a very generous, kind word. Snippy wouldn't be exactly what I'd say. Yeah, but you get totally wigged out.
I mean, get very anxious.
It's very anxious. It's very Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. It's like, it's when I want to reveal to the world that you're not that soft-spoken, nice guy that everybody thinks you are. It's like,
yeah, I am.
I know.
That's when I'm not being me.
Yes. Yes, it is.
See, this is the joy in relationship, is that all of that stuff that we think we can control or we don't think makes a difference shows up. I mean, I can't hide it. When I'm in that space and I'm not taking care of myself, I can't hide it, especially at home. It doesn't work.
Right. There's no hiding. Well, and okay, but I will compliment you. I will say, in terms of my week, because obviously my week is affected by your week, and so it is really an exercise in being for me, because I have to breathe a lot and remember that that's not the truth of who you are, and that you're stressed out, and I have to really go to that place that you just said, that that's not who you are, that I know that something else is happening. And so trying to stay as centered and focused as I can, and yet, wanting to yell at the top of my lungs, what about me? What about me? I'm here too. If you're stressed, I'm stressed, and we're stressed together. But I don't.
Very often.
Generally. But what I was going to say is, one of the things that you did really well this week was, we went to an event, and we had some friends that went with us in the car, and we were driving home from Napa, and we had a flat tire.
Oh, that's always fun.
We had a flat tire. It was about 10 at night.
Yeah.
And we're on the freeway, and I don't freak out about much, and I didn't freak out about that. But we pull over, and I know who Gil is, so I know already. I can hear his brain going, da 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 da, going to fix the tire, going to put new tire on. And I was like, okay, and I know my friends were like, what are you gonna do? What's gonna happen? Because they're single women, probably wondering what's gonna happen. I knew that I had the mechanic there, and I said to him, call Auto Club, please don't get out and change the tire. Now, normally, had we been alone, this would not have gone down the way it did. I know that, but it didn't matter. I'm going to give you the space. So so he looked at me and he went, okay. I could tell it took everything in his body not to tell me why he needed to just get out and fix the tire, and it would be fast. But he did, and he called Auto Club, and apparently Spirit was on his side, because it said 60-minute wait, which I heard his head go, oh, hell no. But he didn't say that. He said, okay. And he sat there for a minute, and he tried to look at a couple other things. And then he said, I'm just going to go out and look. I was like, yeah, okay.
Well, just a quick correction. I moved the car over as far as I could to the guardrail.
You did. You moved the car
it over. Yes, before I got out. And then I carefully proceeded to change the tire. And by which time Auto Club still hadn't arrived. So, I just canceled the call and off we went.
And you didn't even bother to say, see, I canceled the call, and no. I was faster. You didn't gloat about it. But it was, I was actually on the phone with somebody else, and I was like, all right, just stay in prayer. He's getting out of the car and he's going to change the tire, because it just was scary. It's dark, and there's a lot of, a lot of stories. I just read a story about someone getting killed on the freeway when they were trying to get their child's favorite toy. And I was, it wasn't that I didn't think he could do it. It was none of those things, but usually that's where his head would go. And I don't think your head went there.
Well, I think this is interesting, because I think this goes to that whole idea of being yourself. And that is that there's that part of me that feels like I have to do those things.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not really myself. That's some other thing in me that feels that. So for me to be able to be in the space of I can, and I can also allow for what else might happen, and be very careful and methodical and all that stuff, which is what I did. I opened up the space for something else, and I did that. And I think that's was a space where I was really anchoring into that being myself, because I didn't need to do it to show you that I could, or that it would be faster, or any of those things, which in the past might have been the case,
Well, and I think so. I think you're right. And I think, because I think when you even didn't fight back, so to speak, and you called Auto Club and you sat there, I didn't feel like you were doing it entirely to placate me.
No, I wasn't.
I felt like you were like, all right, let me, this would make her feel more comfortable. Let me try this. until it said 60 minutes. And you were like, eh.
Sitting here on the freeway in a car, disabled by the side for 60 minutes did not sound like the safest item. So there you go.
Yeah. So, I mean, but that for us was a whole new being.
Yep.
That was a whole new being.
Right on. Right on.
So I mean, there were a lot of good things that happened during the week. And I think a lot of times where we took out to explore being, some successful, some not, but still it was a different awareness. So I'm just curious if anybody else out there had any awarenesses like that, because I know we gave a lot of exercise. So let us know in the chat if you did. I want to say hi to Bonnie Morgan Gonzalez, who is out there in watching and coming to us from Mexico. I love our international people. Bienvenidos a todos de Mexico. And she is also has a fabulous show on Mondays, Your Doula for Grief. So tune into that. It's a great show that really talks about any kind of grieving, just how to not get stuck in the grief and not feeling like you should be over something. And it doesn't matter if it's a person or a job or a dream, whatever it is.
Well, so Bonnie comments that sometimes I feel like I'm thinking and taking life too seriously. And so to lighten up, I put on some music and just have fun in the moment. And what's really what's really funny about that is that Robyn makes me dance.
I do.
She turns on music and makes me dance. And I don't know, it was yesterday or the day before, she made me dance, and I did not want to dance.
And I knew that.
And that was why I needed to so badly. And I kind of did. But it's those little things that we allow ourselves to do to push us out.
Yeah.
You know, I think that's the thing, you know, it's not always easy, but it's a lot. And it's funny because, like, for instance, I love to, when I'm teaching a class or doing something, to start with dance. So I know what it does. I know the power of getting people out of their stuff and into being themselves. But don't make me do it. I don't want to do it. Okay. Well, there's times.
Well, and let us be aware that many of us, either listening right now or in the future, it's not that we don't know what we're talking about. It's just that sometimes we need to be reminded. Maybe we need to be reminded that we're right, that we do know, and that we need to do what we know. So it is. I
think it's being confident and in knowing that being the way that we know we can be is a good thing. It's a good thing.
Yeah, trusting.
It's not a, you know, just because, you know, dancing in front of other people or something might be weird. That doesn't matter. That's what we need to do. That's what we need to do. That's who we are, you know?
Well, you need to just move the energy. Move the energy, shake it off, as Taylor Swift would say. Anyway, I see that John Chastain has joined us. And oh yeah, John says, just watch little kids. They dance spontaneously. Yeah, they do. They dance all the time. It's true. I mean, well, if we could just watch little kids, we would once again learn how to live, because that's what they do. They live via play, and that's what we need to do. And on that note, I know you're anxious to hear our guest, so we're going to take a break, and we're going to come right back. Stay here, because we have Dr. Davina Kotulsk here, and she is going to walk us through some of these things and
offer us some insights that, you know, perhaps we've missed. I mean, I can't imagine that there are any, but we're going to see if she can pull that off.
She might even dance.
I don't know. We'll see.
So stay tuned and come back right here on New Thought Media Network. Hi, welcome back to Rockin the Love. He's Gil.
She's Robyn.
And we're Rockin the Love.
That's right.
So we are so excited to introduce our guest.
Yes, today we have our friend and colleague, Dr. Davina Kotulsk. And okay, I got to have my glasses for this because I can't see well enough. There it is. So, hi, Davina. Hi. So formal introduction. I just want to give her a little bit, give you a little bit of background on who she is. She's a licensed clinical psychologist, a sought-after speaker, award-winning best-selling author. Davina facilitates workshops and webinars on resilience and self-empowerment, and authentic self-expression, past life regression, spiritual growth, and mysticism, and helps clients move through their fear, self-doubt, transition, creative blocks, grief, loss, and trauma to become resilient, empowered, and successful individuals. Woo! Now, if only I could do that with people and myself, I would be so happy. But today we're going to touch a little bit on her first self-help book, It's Never Too Late to Be Yourself, Follow Your Inner Compass and Take Back Your Life. And I wanted to share this bit with everyone, and that is that you started, Davina, as a psychologist in federal prisons. And I just find that fascinating, that you were working with female inmates and offering them the teachings of Thich Nhat Hanh and Napoleon Hill and Tony Robbins, and just that you had such a passion for that. And that's kind of where at least some of this has began to really come up in you.
Yeah, definitely working in the prison system as a psychologist, and kind of what was there was we would do intake screenings and basically just kind of put people back together just enough to get them back into, general population, so to speak. And it felt like they were really missing having resources that and understanding like what brought them to prison and how to treat their trauma, and then also address the thinking errors and the beliefs that they had about themselves and the world that kept them stuck in, a prison of their mind, so to speak. And so I really became passionate about how do we help teach folks in the prison system success skill, like how to be successful, because they didn't believe that was even possible for them. Like, wait, this has been my life so far. How can I possibly have any different kind of a life? And by helping them look at their thoughts, change their thinking, doing guided visualizations, getting a different sense of who they were, like helping them reconnect with themselves before they ended up in addiction and crime and whatnot, and help them find a new sense and purpose. They were able to really turn their lives around, learning things like meditation to deal with trauma, to deal with triggers, instead of just reacting. And the reacting always got them in trouble. So if we can teach them how to meditate, if we can teach them how to think differently, love themselves, then their trajectory changes. And I apologize, I do have a cold today, so I'm going to do my best.
No need to apologize. Thanks. Thank you so much. And what struck me as you were saying all that, Davina, was just that how true, how what you said in your description of those incarcerated persons matches what I find so many of us are really in the same place, minus having gotten ourselves incarcerated. Yeah. I mean, we do it within ourselves, kind of thing, like you said, in the prison of our minds, of what we believe we can and can't do, and what's right and what's wrong, and all those things.
Definitely. And I got so passionate about it, and working with people that society, or that even in psychology school, they would say, oh, this person can't be helped, they've got this kind of a diagnosis or whatever, don't even bother. And what I saw is that wasn't true, that some people really could be helped, and you had to find those, you had to really put some skin in the game yourself as a therapist to care and help and believe, to help people believe in themselves. And I got so excited about it. I actually wrote a novel called Behind Barbed Eyes, kind of showing that process and how the prison system is actually really set up to just warehouse people and not to rehabilitate them, and the challenges as a psychologist working in that system. And after about 13 years in there, I did leave, because I was like, okay, there change is possible, but at the same time, it started to become an environment that was more detrimental to me And quite honestly, if you Google the prison that I worked at, you'll see it's in the news again for a warden, a minister, all these staff members actually sexually assaulting the inmates.
Mm.
And that was a part of the story that I was writing too, was that this is the kind of stuff that's going on in this system. And how do we help people when they're being traumatized and then they can't even trust the people that are there? So yeah, it's pretty wild. So yeah, the place I worked is back in the news. I haven't been there for over 12 years, maybe a little bit longer now, but it's back in the news. And one of the things that I'm trying to do to change the conversation even now is that I've been working on a screenplay, and we're hoping to produce a movie that addresses some of those dynamics, because it's got to change the way the system is now. It's flawed, and so we need to find a way to help people before they end up in prison. Young girls and boys that have experienced trauma in their lives. Be it child abuse or sexual trauma, or they grow up in homes where there's addiction, and then they just kind of follow into that path. And but yeah, our incarceration system, we've got to change it. It's not a healing system. And I do think it's helpful to have people take large timeouts, but not the way that we're doing it now. More like a year of retreat. That's they're learning how to eat healthy, how to heal themselves, how to address their issues. Not let's lock them up and throw away the key kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And uh, Bonnie's saying, thank you so much for shining a light on the prison system that's so broken and in need of our help. And John also said, thank you for your work in our prison communities.
Thank you, Bonnie.
And
Well, I don't mean to interrupt you, but what I heard you saying what struck me was that that unfortunately it sounds like those that are in the prison system forcibly and those who are in the prison system by choice are both coming from things of unhealed and traumatic life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so they're not able to really work that well with each other.
Yeah, there's definitely exploitation that's going on, and yeah, it's not a healing environment. It's crime and punishment. And it's a big picture thing, because as a society we have to look at forgiveness, and where do we put our resources, and how do we invest in people that have broken the law in a way that and one approach is you're on a permanent timeout, and you never are welcome to be a productive citizen again. Another approach is how do we help people so they can become productive citizens again. And then also, how do we know who's who, and what can we do to do that? So it's much bigger than all of us, but it's definitely something to think about, and something that hopefully we can um, begin to heal in our community, since the United States has one of the biggest populations of incarcerated people, and is more likely to incarcerate people of color. So there's a lot going on there. There's a lot going on.
yes.
Okay, well that's been a really uplifting show. Thank you so much. I'm teasing you.
Yeah, no,
It's just that reality,
Yeah.
that reality is tough to deal with, I think.
Right. And I mean, one of the things, I was at one point, I've been a part of different New Thought prison ministries. I was a part of, with Central. We started writing letters to, and doing pen pals and sending science of mind information into the prisons and empowering people. And I think it's also really important that, we empower people who are incarcerated, not just like rush in to save them and play, we call this in prison Captain Save-A-Ho, where it's like, I'm going to make you better, I'm going to heal you. And it's very narcissistic and egoic. But it's like, hey, how can we provide the tools and resources through, our freedom ministries or prison ministries to give folks who are incarcerated the tools to heal themselves, to change their own thoughts, So I think that's important. That's something that those that are in the New Thought ministries can do, is they can have a freedom ministry, and they can make sure those great books are getting in there, the tools are getting in there, so that people can heal themselves, change their thinking, and connect with the oneness, connect with the divine.
And I think along with that, finding ways to serve both families on the outside and people as they return
Absolutely.
to society. How are we supporting those folks? Are we creating the spaces for them to really be able to dive in and work on some of that personal stuff, and are we giving them the space to have the ups and downs of the process?
And John is asking, Davina, if you saw the 2020 on German prison system and how humane and successful it is at rehabilitation.
Wow.
Wonderful. I'll have to check that out.
Yeah, and I think our title of this show is "Be Yourself. It's Not Too Late," and I think that's it's a good segue. And it's not too late. It's never too late, right? It doesn't matter if you're in prison or if you're in prison in your mind, or if you're
112.
Right. Your circumstances don't matter. And so yeah,
do you mind if I jump in real quick with something?
Sure.
So, I mentioned that I stopped working in the prison in 2008. And, a couple of years later, some of the people that I had worked with I had a second chances program. And, again, Reverend Gil, you mentioned the helping them, introducing them to Napoleon Hill and Tony Robbins and Thich Nhat Hanh and all these different resources, and Abraham Hicks and, lots of different things. Several of the people that were in that intensive program that I was doing recontacted me later. One of them got a master's degree in psychology and became a therapist. Another one became a drug and alcohol counselor. Another one became, worked as a drug and alcohol counselor and at a treatment center, and was, like getting involved in management and doing all kinds of amazing things. And they never would have guessed that would have been their path. That was not who they were. I won't give any more identifying information, but they absolutely turned their lives around and became productive citizens and were giving back in just phenomenal ways. Really incredible people. And, I feel honored that I got to work with them, and that they use the tools and are helping people, all over now, that they've just completely turned their lives around. And so I think that's an example of it's never too late. And, so don't assume that just because you've been on a particular track in your life, or you've hit a bump or something, that you can't, pull yourself out with the grace of God and these tools and the supportive community, because all those things are, possibilities are boundless.
And I think sometimes, for me anyway, it's really important for the rest of us to know that about other people, because having somebody see you as who you are rather than as what you've done or who you've been changes all of that. And that's part of what you contributed in your program was, I see more of you than you see, and so I'm going to walk you through the process to help you find that.
That's right.
And we all need those people in our lives.
Right. And seeing the divinity in them, not having them see the divinity in us, which is when they're borrowing something, it becomes about us. It's like, hey, it's not about me. It's about, this is you. It's in you.
Yep. I agree. Absolutely.
I agree too.
Okay, good.
No, I do. I agree. I actually, and we can stay on this topic. We can keep this, and we don't have to go to the other stuff we talked about. That's fine. But there's so much to this. It's so rich. I hate to leave it. And we can always have you back. We know where to find you. But I was just going to add that I actually have a prisoner in that I write to. I have a prisoner. There's a prisoner that I write to through a prison ministry, and we have always, he has always from the beginning, he's been able to see and claim like he wants to do he wants to become a minister. He wanted to start science of mind teachings in the church. He wants to, I mean, like, oh, in the prison,
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah.
He sees that, and he has that vision for himself, and he's able to see where others don't, you know. So he knows, like, he represents that in prison for people, and it's fascinating. It's and great and phenomenal. So, you know, it's like each one teach one, each one reach one, each one teach one. It's like if one is empowered, they all get it. And
Yeah.
as John is saying, Matthew 25:36, I was masked and you clothed me. I was sick and you looked after me. I was in prison and you visited me. Dr. Davina, you are embodying this Christian tenet by seeing the oneness and the child of God in each incarcerated person. I feel strongly we need to hold this truth as a country, as a society. These are people.
Well, you pointed out also that society as a whole is wasting so much by not acknowledging that, because the three examples you gave are people who their gifts and their talents would not have come to us had you not, and your program and your work in that particular prison at that particular time, had that not happened, we would not have them, their contributions.
Yeah.
You know, so it's not only that you did this work, you multiplied it by at least three, you know, that kind of thing. I mean, that's the thing.
Well, and so kind of talking about something which I do talk about in my book, It's Never Too Late to Be Yourself, is that if you want to make a change, you really need to have, you know, a high vibe tribe, and which is a group of people that are holding your vision of yourself with you. They're seeing the best in you as well. They're encouraging you instead of trying to bring you down. And that was something, by having these groups, it's like I kind of got in trouble because they're like, well, make sure you're not creating a gang in prison. And I'm like, I'm trying to create a positive community, not a gang. But it was like, you know, having people go through this experience together, and looking out for one another, believing in one another, and creating that community. And so I think that's something very important in our lives now, is that if we want to make changes, we need to surround ourselves with like-minded people, you know, that can help us make the change. It's like, you know, we're in a sacred circle together. I'm a part of a conscious community gathering group. Just having community, that, you know, if you're going to run a marathon, getting together with runners to support you in that. So whatever it is, you know, if we want to make changes in our lives, we have to bring in and have a supportive community that is going to advocate for our changes, because maybe our people are closest to us, or our regular friends, you know, that we've had since childhood or whatever, they may or may not encourage us to make those changes. They might want to keep us kind of, oh, just keep being who you were before. Don't rock the boat. So anyhow, I think that's important, is as that being ourselves, we need to be surrounded and mirrored by people that can see who we truly are, or who we're becoming, and the divine within us.
Absolutely.
Yes, and we have a Facebook user in Geneva,
Huh?
from CSL Geneva,
Oh,
who says that they agree and are watching gratefully. We welcome you. So, and I think that's a great place to take a break and talk about that when we come back, because it's so important. It's so important to recognize that, and that's part of the journey, as I know our doula for grief knows out there, that when you go to move to that higher vibration, or to truly step into who you are, or to recognize your, you know, infinite potential, sometimes you've got to leave things behind, you know, that looked like your loving family of, you know, choice, or whatever it is. So I think it would be great to take a break and come back and talk about how you do that, and all that good stuff.
sounds good.
So join us here in a couple minutes on Rockin the Love and New Thought Media Network.
Hi, welcome back. I'm Robyn.
And I'm Gil, and this is Rockin the Love. And we're so happy today to have Dr. Davina Kotulsk, our good friend and someone who has walked through with us to practitioner training and has dedicated herself to learning about who she is. And through that has, maybe not necessarily through that, anyway, she's also dedicated all of that learning to others. And I wanted to share with you a quote from Steve Marobly. It came up as something important while we were talking. He says, "I find the best way to love someone is not to change them, but instead to help them reveal the greatest version of themselves." Yeah. And I think that's exactly what you've been talking about.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Just, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, but being ourselves, I think part of that exercise is to allow others to be themselves and to encourage them to be themselves.
Absolutely.
You know, we can't be the judgers, if you will, of others and expect others not to do the same with us, to put us into boxes. You know, if we're going to allow ourselves to come out and be the full ourselves, we have to allow that in others as well.
Yeah, and I think the more that we do allow ourselves to be ourselves, the less judgmental we are. We have more compassion and understanding for other people and their process.
Yeah,
I think that's true, but I think it takes getting past, like, we're the fear of winning or the fear of not being the best. or that you're going to lose something if someone else steps into their greatness. And I think that's ingrained in us, a lot in the American culture anyway, about, must win, must have the
Right.
most toys.
Well, certainly, I mean, we can go on a whole political thing here, but yeah, I mean, I think there's definitely a lot of social Darwinistic theories and practices that we've all been, the survival of the fittest, and scarcity mentality, and accumulate more.
Yeah, but we know none of that's true. I mean, Trump became president, so clearly it's not always survival of the fittest. It's survival of somebody. I'm sorry. I
Yeah.
mean, who is fit?
Well,
In
so
terms of fitness.
yeah.
Okay, different show.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Just
I
bringing us back.
digress.
Well, I'm just trying to think of like how to relate that back to well, what I like about New Thought is that it doesn't really matter what somebody else is doing. It's like, what's going on in my head and what am I creating? And like taking my eyes off the other person's paper and putting it back on me. What am I creating with the divine? What are my thoughts? And I've found that, I mean, I definitely, Robyn, what you're saying, like, I have definitely lived my life of like, okay, I'm going to race to the top of the ladder of success. And, I want to be the best this and the most that. And that's striving. And, that's interesting. And that works for a while. And then I find that it's a little bit exhausting. And what I prefer to do now, or the way I live now, is I try to really live in the flow of what what do I feel called to do? What's wanting to be created through me? So instead of like, I have to do this, 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 and this, it's like, where am I, following the seasons? Where am I energetically being called to create? So like, sometimes there's a book that wants to come through. Sometimes it's a YouTube video. Sometimes it's, I just want to go, garden in the backyard or something. It's like much deeper listening to the flow, instead of like, okay, I'm going to do, one YouTube video every week. It's going to be on these topics. I'm going to da 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 da. I've got to get this many followers. I got to do this many things. I can't do that. I find that exhausting and depleting, and that it's forcing too much. Instead, it's like listening and being open and available.
Right. And wouldn't you say that that is really the quintessential stepping into being on some level? You're
Yeah.
just being, you're doing what's in front of you to do. And it doesn't have to be done a certain way. It doesn't, like you said, you don't have to get this many followers. You don't have to have this many people on the platform before they'll show your title and whatever. You're just going, this is what I need to do. This is what needs to get done this week. This is what needs to come out.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the soul. The ego is like, well, yeah, I wanted to be on Oprah and Ellen, and, I mean, definitely, right? So the ego has all those like benchmarks of what is success, but the soul is just like, what brings me joy? Okay, I'm going to write this book. What brings me joy? I'm going to do this. I'm going to, see my clients, and just being present. It's not that and I haven't given up. It's just that I'm not striving. I'm open and available, and opportunities show up because of that. But it's not a judgment of like, oh, well, you didn't do that, so that means something less.
Yeah. So we only have about 10 more minutes left, and there's so much more to talk to you about. You're definitely going to have to come back.
Okay.
But I know that they're asking about your books out there. John's saying that your books are on Amazon, and Bonnie is asking which one of your books you'd recommend for a first-time reader of your work and why. And I want to get to those questions. I want to let you all know we'll get to them.
Yes.
And something you said, so I'm wondering, I hear you saying that, and I totally get it. And I'm wondering, like, Gil asked me this morning, how how, what can he do? How can he, because he's got a lot of scheduling things going on and a lot of anxiety around, you know, things in all different parts of the country
Yeah.
and trying to hold different pieces together and still have his family like him at night.
Mhm.
So what how do you really get to that step where you can take the first step to letting it be, so to speak? Do you have a thought on
I think when I started to, I think when you learn to hold that space of self love, such that you're like, okay, I'm gonna do what I need to do for myself, and not because other people need me to do it. So that involves, asking what is mine to do, not needing to please everyone, being able to set boundaries. Sometimes it's a lot of boundaries. Like, yes, I can do this. No, I can't. Sometimes we want to say yes to everything, and yes may not be in our best interest.
Yeah, I'm still on the first sentence of
Yeah,
what you said.
yeah.
I'm still on the first sentence of letting go to, not do what's best for you instead of what's best for others.
Also,
And I
yeah, I mean, I feel like I don't have anything to prove anymore. Like I think when I was younger, it was like, or caught up in more of that. It's like I felt like I still had to prove something, like prove I cared enough, or prove I was enough, or if I don't do this, they're going to think I don't care, or I don't love them, or I don't, I'm not invested. Um, and so it's like, oh my God, I got to do these things. And now it's like, no, I am enough. It is enough, and what needs to get done will happen when it's supposed to.
Yeah. Um, I was just going to share that I had kind of a moment of that this week. I got in my email some information about um, what another spiritual center is doing. I'm getting ready to go and become the lead minister at a spiritual center, and I got this information with this whole layout of programs and their theories and their what their intentions are and their vision and their goals. And I had a moment where I went, oh my God. Right?
Yeah.
Total overwhelm. And then I was like, no, it's just good information. It's just interesting. It's just good to see what other people are doing. This is not defining where anyone else is going,
Mhm.
where I'm going, where that community is going, where any other community may be going. This just offers a picture into how one community is doing it,
Right.
and able to step out of, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to keep up with that.
There's such a pressure to do more and more and more, like, within a spiritual community, within an activist community, within a life coaching community, change, self-help is like, oh, you got to do more and more and more and more. And I think it's really a disservice, because I think, you know, doing more isn't it's just not always the answer. Sometimes doing more makes you more scattered. It makes you less present.
Mhm.
I mean, I'm going to just hold it. The question was what book to read first. It's never too late to be yourself. Follow your inner compass and take back your life. This is a book about getting back into your heart and living from your heart, not from your head. The more programs, more readers, more videos, more this, whatever it is, more activism, more marches. That's not it. That's not your heart. That's your head. Your heart is going to be like, what would be the most significant? Oh, having space to sit down with your parishioners and have lunch. That's not a 8-week class, it's just having the space to do that. You know, whatever it is, but it's not going to come if you're in your head. You've got to come back to your heart, and you've got to look at, where am I not in my heart? And when you let your heart lead, you are in the flow of life and you're co-creating with God. When you're in your head, you're an ego. There's not a lot of space for spirit to, and source to co-create with you. You're just, unless it's being led by the heart. But I've worked with a lot of coaches. I've worked with a lot of different people, and this speaks to me. The more leading from here, I've worked with amazing coaches and watched them have the realization that less is more. And when they're trying to put too much stuff into a cup that's already full and can't integrate it, but it's like they feel like they need to give you more, 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 and then realize, oh, wow, you know what? Spaciousness is better. Letting somebody integrate, having a pause and a breath.
Yeah, beautiful. And Bonnie's asking, how do you move beyond not wanting to hurt a loved one's feelings by doing what's best for you?
There's a wonderful quote by Bert Hellinger that I cannot remember what it is, but basically, if you want to live your best life, you've got to be willing to make other people uncomfortable, and they might actually grow from you, taking care of yourself. Like that's what you're modeling. If you're saying no or taking care of yourself, even if it hurts them, they're seeing that, first of all, you might be freeing them to do and pursue whatever it is that they need to do, but you're also modeling for them. If you have,
Sorry, that the moral to the story is always turn your
devices.
devices off before a show.
devices. So, you might be modeling to your kids what self-care looks like. But yeah, you are gonna disappoint some people, but you have to be comfortable with that. Because would you rather disappoint other people, or would you rather come to the end of your life and have really disappointed yourself because you were busy people pleasing everyone else through your entire life, and then you actually didn't go after what mattered and what you cared about? And we're meant to evolve. We're meant to change. And when you pursue what's in your heart, you allow that to happen instead of forcing yourself and others to be stagnant and not grow. Even if other people think that, hey, it's better if you don't change. It's better if we stay in this dynamic or stagnancy or whatever it is.
If we stay snuggled up here in this dysfunction.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and it goes right back to where we started, which was with people who are incarcerated. How many people around them there, the people that are, overseeing them, the families they come from, how many people are expecting them to just stay the way they are? And that's not the best thing for them.
No.
I mean, the best thing we could do is say, hey, this isn't okay. And this is how, make decisions that may be uncomfortable, but will ultimately support someone in finding their better self.
That's right.
I mean, I think that's the other thing. We think that when we make a decision that affects someone else, that affects some relationship we're in, that because the relationship doesn't look the way it did, that we have now broken it, and it's broken rather than it has created the space for something new to come forth.
Exactly. And your soul is calling to you, and you have like if I had stayed in the prison, there's all these other kind of soul contracts and opportunities and things I got to do that I never would have connected with if I had stayed. And it would have been easy to stay. I share that, and I think in the Manna Paradigm Shift, this is my other book. This is on creating the consciousness of abundance and freedom. This was how I left the prison and quit a full-time, wonderful 6-figure job, wonderful in quotes, but like all the great benefits, 6-figure job, total job security, 2/3 of my salary would be paid for the rest of my life. All I had to do was stay till I was 50. Well, at 38, I decided it was enough. And I quit my job, and literally the day before giving notice, no, the day I gave notice, the next day they announced the 2008 recession. And as I was giving notice, my boss told me, he said, "Are you stupid? Why would you do this?" And I said, "No, I'm not stupid, and it would be stupid for me to stay. I'm being called to something bigger and greater." "Well, you don't even have another job." And I'm like, "I know." And it was the first time in my life I'd quit something without something else lined up. I was always extremely careful. And so here we were going into a recession, and he's like, "You're going to change your mind now, right?" And I said, "No, I'm not." And I was literally jumping without a net. My net was God, and it was to start a private practice really completely from scratch. And what I learned is that, when you lean into spirit, spirit will provide for you. And the book, The Manna Paradigm Shift, is about manna from heaven. It's about when the Israelites left, they ran from Pharaoh. They, were getting away from slavery, and they wandered into the desert without anything, without any plan, just following God, and that God provided for them every day what they needed. They didn't have any more security than that, but day by day, all of their needs were met. And so that's a book about leaning heavily into spirit, knowing spirit is your source, your supply and sufficiency in all things, and that spirit will find a way. And it may be uncomfortable and it may look different than you expected it, but when you lean into spirit and you trust and you follow your freedom, and you stop being enslaved to limited thinking, you stop being enslaved to race consciousness that is about scarcity, that the universe will provide for you. And so that's what that book is about. And so all the steps and tips and ideas to psychologically deal with your mind, and also spiritually keep leaning into spirit so that you can be truly free. And so that was my path, because I had to let go of the golden handcuffs so that I could be free.
Well, thank you so much, Davina. Thank you for being with us today. Just really quickly before we go, because we got to go. You do your website. People can go to your website and they can check out your book, right? We want everybody to be able to go and get a free chapter from your book.
Yeah, go to davinakotulsk.com and you'll be able to see a couple different places where you can download a free chapter of It's Never Too Late to Be Yourself and the Manna Paradigm Shift. You can either download.
You can check them out for yourself and see what resonates with you, and then head on to Amazon or wherever else to purchase those books. And thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so mumuch. And I hope you'll come back. And everybody's saying much love and thank you to you and for opening their eyes. And it's the point is, whether it's a big change or a little change, it's a change. And if we're growing, we're always going to be out of our comfort zone. Absolutely. So it's just making that first little degree step. And so we will talk more about it next week, and Davina will be back at some point. And it's been great to have you all here. And I just want to say that this is the kind of work we're all doing out in the world. And we're so grateful for your generous donations and your time, and you telling people about the show and sharing it with people, because it's really each one reach one, each one teach one. And we're all a part of these changes together. So thank you all. You can go to ntmedia.org/donate if you would love to put something into the kitty. We are grateful and thankful. And we thank our producer. You can see his show Friday nights, Fireside Chat. And we look forward to Rockin the Love with you next week, and rock it all week long, everybody. Peace.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.